my bad. I was
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to PNN KEXU, Po People's Revolutionary Radio on 96.1 FM on the dial in Oakland and streaming live online at www.pomagazine.org/radio. This is Lamont Ford, your co-host, formerly Houseless Poverty Scholar with Wood Street Commons in studio with Poe Poet and formerly Houseless Poverty Scholar, Tiny and Mutiaro.
Liberation doesn't happen in one generation. Liberation doesn't happen in a chant or a dance or a happenstance or a meeting or a colonizer's nervous glance or a settler's grant or a philanthropamp or a romance or a march or you or I dreaming or scheming or being in a confused capitalist trance. Liberation is a quiet prayer, a big shout, a demand from an elder, aquí estamos, no, you're not kicking us out. A rock thrown by a 10-year-old girl in Hassa or an indigenous mama saying, no more lies about our mama's border terrorized. Liberation is what you dream, what you know you can live to see. Liberation is manifested by you and us and all of we. A historical document, the liberation easement, a sacred document, which will permanently unsell this small corner of Mama Earth right here in occupied Ochun, aka Oakland. We houseless people call homefulness. It happened on Black August 10th at 1 p.m. Spiritually guided by First Nations land protectors and houseless, formerly houseless elders, youth, and families, all of this that you see. What does that mean? Firstly, for anyone who doesn't know about homefulness, it was first lodged in the hearts and minds of an indigenous houseless mother and daughter, a disabled mama, a single parent who barely held it together like so many of our poor mamas do. Barely surviving on the streets, hiding in doorways, bus shelters, shelter beds, on the back seats of hoopties before they were towed. Me and Mama dreamed of everything that we didn't have. The dreams that so many of us houseless peoples always have. To have community, people, family who care about you, who would die for you, who would live for you, so that we know that we should be alive for each other. Homefulness was unsold on Black August 10th. Oh, Mateo.
As you've heard, just 2 weeks ago, a local resident went for his immigration check-in and then was arrested by ICE and placed in custody. He then had a medical emergency, was brought to John Muir Hospital. His family was never given any information about his condition, and he was snuck off to an ICE detention facility. It appears that healthcare workers were forbidden to speak with the family to update the results of their loved one. Healthcare worker intimidation has been used for decades by authoritarian regimes in order to control the narrative, suppress dissent, and cause fear amongst minority groups. Countries such as China, Iran, Russia, and of course, Nazi Germany have done this in the recent and distant past. Federal law actually allows information to be given to family if the patient consents, even if they're incarcerated. Less than a year after my father was detained, he was released. The US government actually drafted him into the US Army. Like so many others, he proved his loyalty by serving. Now, as his child, I'm here today to ask you and the Board of Supervisors, as supporters of democracy, to stand up against dictatorship and speak up for immigrants, diversity, compassion. Please adopt the non-cooperation ordinance against ICE.
Mateo.
Well, we build, we fight. After the beautiful unsettling land liberation ceremony you heard Tony speak on, the next day, more relatives were killed in Palestine and kidnapped off the streets of occupied Turtle Island. from so-called LA to so-called Concord, today a rally was held in Contra Costa County to resist more of this false border terror. In addition, the current violent administration has put threats of erasure and violent removal by National Guard on the heads of houseless relatives and poor Black and brown youth residing on our so-called Washington, D.C. On today's podcast of Poor People's Radio, we will talk about this.
Exactly. So I just wanted to check in, and I know that there's some relatives coming in from Western Regional Advocacy Project, WRAP, we love you, who are also going to speak about more of this fascist regime and what's happening in Calyapuya territory. But as poverty scholars, as houseless relatives right here, who struggled with the ongoing war on the poor, it didn't just start with the Cracker King.
No, it didn't.
He's just enhancing and digging in and codifying the erasure in all of occupied Turtle Island. But I'm going to ask my brother Lamonte from our family at Wood Street Commons and also Poor Family, just your thoughts on the Cracker King's recent threats.
Well, like you said, it's been going on since the beginning of time, actually. But his recent threats, it would be appalling to me. It is appalling to me how he can just blatantly make decisions that so drastically changes our lives as poor people, as Black people, as brown people, as youth out there in the streets. I mean, he's relentless with it.
Yeah. Mote, did you want to throw down any thoughts on the recent threat of our houseless relatives in so-called Washington, D.C.?
Well, again, is the ongoing police state, fascism too. Like Monty, you were saying, that this administration has promised to practice and put into action in the white supremacy that we already know lives in those white walls in the White House. And so again, this is manifesting what these racist classes administrations talked about.
Yeah. I wanted to check in. Are our folks from Calyapuya territory there? Are they having trouble still, Tiva? No. Well, we're having technical difficulties bringing them, but I wanted to
No, it's good.
just, are there?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to deconstruct a little bit before we bring them in, that if people don't understand, this actually began, as Auntie Kim de Ocampo talks about, going back to the occupation of Turtle Island. And the reason that we ground everything we do in the settler colonization of this stolen land that already had full communities living, had beautiful, abundant Mama Earth. And no, we didn't need to be discovered or saved. And the relatives here didn't need the colonial system to be educated or have a job, right? So that we have to understand that the roots are extremely important. Then similarly, right, as we're in this moment, for those of you who don't understand, even though we talk about it all the time, but just to name it, Grants Pass versus Johnson, which of course all of us fought, in addition to our relatives from RAP and all across Turtle Island, was the final nail on the FU coffin, if you will, basically saying that houseless people don't have rights under the Constitution. Once that happened, gloves were off of all these settler mayors and these politricksters in this state alone. Newsom was coming for us.
It's a war.
Right? Coming for us. In this city, occupied Uchun, the mayor at the time who came into office claiming her, stint with homelessness, wanted to do Newsom one better. And so put out her own, right? Her own violent sweeps program. So when we say this is nothing new under the settler sun, as I often say, we do need to name But the violence is already happening. Shout out to our relatives from Etna Street Solidarity and LA Can and the warriors down in southern so-called California. Same thing, violently removing the compound a couple weeks ago with sheriff's deputies and armed agents of the state, right? And mace and zip ties, and then calling us violent. So anyway, naming those things, that's what brings us to this moment of the Cracker King disappearing us. So yeah, it's nothing new. I want to bring in our relatives from Calyapuya territory, so-called Oregon. Welcome, family, to Poor People's Radio.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks.
And we're calling in. So we're in Southern Oregon right now. We're at the Bear Creek Social Center, which is our new little community spot in Talent, Oregon. So it's actually Shasta and Tacoma lands here. We're a little further south than the Calapooya, but we're about an hour from Grants Pass, where you were talking about the Grants Pass decision, and Ashland and Medford are a couple of the towns here. Ashland and Medford have both been innovating new exclusion zones, ways to make, downtown no-go zones for folks on the streets. And there was also a big ICE raid in Medford and the towns of Central Point and Eagle Point. So we kind of have city areas and towns, and then it gets real rural real quick. So there's a lot of farmland around us. But yeah, just to give some folks the geography. I'm Derek, and we've got Sam here as well.
Hello, it's Sam here as well.
Welcome, family. Can you just break down a little bit more detail? So you've got all these things happening, right? Both the attack on our houseless bodies, as well as the attack on our relatives, indigenous relatives from the other side of the false borders. There is no accident, right? That we're all. It's the same thing, Joe. That freak Arpaio did in so-called Phoenix, Pueblo land. First they came for the houseless relatives, and then they came for indigenous migrante relatives. So it's the same system. Even the word sweeps is used, which is, to me, not an accident. But can you tell us what happened with the recent sick terror raid, aka ICE, and where that was?
Yeah. So like Derek was saying, in Medford, we have there's a local ICE facility. It's pretty small. The building itself is owned by the county. And on the 30th of July, it was a Wednesday, some folks who just, community members, people who are in it, were at the ICE facility and around town. And we had gotten a few tips from friends and people in the community that there were raids happening on a few farms in the area, both in Medford and surrounding, more rural areas, some of those farms were just OLCC, completely legal farms. And a lot of people were taken. We didn't know exactly how many people were taken. We still don't know exactly how many people, but a lot of those people who were taken from those farms were then taken to this ICE facility in Medford, which again is very small. And behind the fence of this facility, we see this really large Greyhound-sized bus, right? It's white. It has these really dark windows. It has a tag on the side for Geo, which is one of the largest transport companies for ICE in general. They also they run the Northwest.
They run the Northwest Detention Center
in Tacoma.
Private ICE facilities around the country.
And so we see this bus behind this fence at the ICE facility in Medford, and a few of us see people getting loaded onto this bus. There's also guards with body armor getting on and off of this bus, getting it ready for transport. And then later in the day, this bus leaves and is then confirmed to arrive in Tacoma, where people are probably still detained now.
Wow.
Yeah, and throughout the day at the ICE facility, I mean, there can be so many rumors about ICE doing this or that, and so you do really need to fact check, right? Not every not every van is ICE, but when you see the men with the neck gaiters wearing khaki pants, and you see cargo vans going in and out of the office, and you see the Greyhound sized bus, and and one of the things that was interesting in observing was just how much effort the secret police are taking to be a secret, right? Like the tinted windows, the covered faces. I mean, there were community members out in the parking lot. There's a public part of the parking lot, and then there's the fenced in part of the parking lot. And there's these unmarked cars pulling up, and you walk up to them with a camera and you say, "Hey, I'm a community member. I'm just wondering, what are you doing?" And they're bolting in their cars and driving off. They're one of the agents, this guy Dario Benitez, he's there covering his face with his coffee cup. We're like, "Where you work at?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't work at ICE." We're like, "Well, where you work at, man?" And I think, and it's interesting too to watch then the community reaction, because we heard some people who should be on our side, they say they're on their side, but they're like, "Well, how can you prove it was ICE?" You don't have a picture, because nowhere throughout the day did you see the word ICE on any of these vehicles. They were all unmarked cars. They were all, but if it looks like it, smells like it, tastes like it, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a Geo van. Wow. And one of the interesting things that it seems like what they're doing here, so our current estimate is there were about 20 to 30 people that were detained from at least 4 marijuana farms that were raided. Marijuana is legal in the state of Oregon. I think there was some alleging that somebody had shipped some weed along the way or whatever. So they had some warrants for a farmer or two, but then they detained what as far as we can tell, they detained all of the workers as well. So these are people just going to clock in, at their OLCC job or whatever. We haven't even been able to get a head count of how many people were detained and taken to Tacoma. We know of a handful of folks who've reached out to PERC, like the Portland Immigrant Rights, I think the CS Coalition there, or reached out to a local page that's run by community members called Migra Watch RV. And, so they said, "Hey, my boyfriend didn't come home from work," or things like that. So we've been able to confirm in different ways, bits and pieces, but even basic facts like how many people were on the bus, no one's been willing to admit. The other thing here in Oregon, it's supposedly a sanctuary state, and there's all these beliefs about what the police are and aren't allowed to do. We know because people were on site of the marijuana raids. Jackson County Sheriff's was there, right? DEA was there. FBI was there. We don't know. Somehow, Jackson County Sheriff's, I think the people of Oregon and what people believe our sanctuary law is supposed to do, the Jackson County Sheriff's not supposed to be able to do a 1-2 to work with ICE to raid a bunch of workers on a farm, right? But they did, and they did it through this secrecy where somehow, like, we had a friend who went down to one of the raids in progress, and the county public information officer said, "Oh, I know why you're here. I'm glad you guys are here keeping an eye out for ICE, but I want to reassure you, this what we're doing today is a marijuana raid. It has nothing to do with immigration."
Wow.
So they're just spinning things like this.
Wow.
And we're,
That's wild.
it's pretty wild, it's like, but I guess you shouldn't expect the secret police to tell you what they're doing, because then it wouldn't be a secret.
Right? That's what's so weird though also, because one of the things that marks the Cracker King is that he's arrogant. I mean, he's not hiding. So right? So like why the secrecy even? You know what I mean? Like right, there's so much stupidity. It should feel like stupid to me, but also stupid dangerous, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, so that they could catch more human beings, like the slave catchers that they are. Really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you tell us about this concept of the exclusion zone? What is that?
Yeah, so it was interesting. Sam and I went to talk on one of the local stations here, KSKQ, on a show called We the People, about the ICE raids. And one of the hosts of the show was a woman, Jeannie, who she herself is unhoused in Ashland. And so when we started talking about people being disappeared in the ICE van, of course, she's connecting that to the people on the streets she's known who's been disappeared over the years. And right now in both Ashland and Medford, for years, they've had these exclusion zones where basically they're creating these no-go zones where it's all the so-called quality of life crimes. So all the stuff that everyone does every day, all the time. You know what I mean? Like theft of services because you plugged your charger into a public outlet or whatever. So basically, if they catch you on trespassing or sleeping or whatever, they can ban you from these large public spaces. So all of downtown Medford or all of downtown Ashland or all of Hawthorne Park or all of the Greenway or and they keep changing the laws like every day. So I actually have to look. I think Ashland's been rewriting theirs now, but basically usually the way it is you get the ticket first and your exclusion starts as soon as you get the ticket. So you haven't even gone to court yet. You haven't been found guilty necessarily. And it's running through their municipal courts. And then both Ashland and Medford are also renting beds in the jail. So they have their own beds that their own municipal courts are in charge of so that they can pick someone and say, hey, we really don't like that guy. So anytime we get him, we're going to tell the jail how long to keep him. It's a trespassing charge. Like the county jail might not keep you 30 days on a trespassing charge, but you might have that cop the cop in the court that decided, well, we really don't like Carl. So anytime he gets picked up, we're going to keep him. And then things like that in Ashland, like my understanding is if you get picked up on the exclusion zone, then your exclusion starts over. So you had 30 days, but on the 29th day, you got picked up. Now you're back at another 30 or not, and in Ashland, they're looking at it being, is there even a grocery store outside of this new exclusion zone? It's
I was
like,
going to say that's what concerns me.
Yeah.
Feeding these individuals, these hostages. No one speaks of food and water being delivered to these bus. What's going on with that?
It's insane. Do you know?
Say it one more time there.
Are they feeding and making sure that these individuals have water?
Yes and no. It's hot right now. Like Sam and I, part of the reason we know RAP is through a project called Judy's Midnight Diner, where folks here, we just go out on the streets and give out food and water. You know what I mean? But it's been, is like that's the question: is how do people get their needs met when they're not even allowed to go near the grocery store? Ashland keeps shutting down its own shelters. Like they keep having all these kind of zoning code issues. So there was a place where community members were running a meal in a public building called Pioneer Hall. But then one of the DeBoers, who are one of the richest families in town, bought the next door property, built a mansion, and then all of a sudden the Pioneer Hall now it's not up to fire code. So you got to shut that down. So things like that just kind of keep happening. I don't know, Sam, what do you want to add there?
Yeah, I think, if it wasn't for like community coming together and, both community that lives outside and folks that are holding solidarity, like me and Derek, if it wasn't for community members like that, people would not be getting fed. People would not be have access to clean water or running water in general. In Medford, something, it's been an ongoing process for many years. Like this isn't new, like y'all were saying. But something that Medford does, they try to be very sneaky, right? They're like, well, of course we care. And of course we want to open up these cooling and warming shelters, but we don't have enough volunteers. We don't have enough people willing to come and help run these shelters. But then their like sign up process and their eligibility process for doing that is so strict. So people that are out here doing the work, like helping people get fed, helping people get water, access to services they want, can't apply for that, or they are discriminatory against people who are going in, like, oh, you have a record, you can't volunteer at this warming shelter, or oh, well, we know you have a history. So I think just like being super transparent about that, like the people who are feeding and contributing to like making sure people don't die on the streets are the same people who are living on the streets, and it's just the cities are not helping in any way.
I just wanted to name that in 2021, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lou or T-Boo, but pretty sure in 2021 or 2022, as part of, our untour across occupied Turtle Island, we went to, so-called Oregon, and we were in Ashland, and they were already doing a raid of that park. Like it was like 200 people were going to be moved in one morning. And there was no plan of anywhere that anybody needed to go. And there was, right, and then all that there was this sort of meager non-profiteer referral. And we know how that
Yeah.
same-ish here,
Right.
that never ends up turning out, or creates fake solutions that aren't even solutions, that are never always made about us, without us poor people.
Totally.
Right. And so what's the end game? I do want to name that, shout out to LA Can and Rap as well, in the sense that I was looking at their series of slides about the Cracker Kings move, and they brought up the lantern laws, and I know that Paul is oftentimes teaches on the sundown channel, right? These are the same. These are the same systems. They're race and class targets. And want to lift up disability justice as well. And my brother Leroy Moore and Crip Hop Nation and Poor Magazine work on that, because we also need to name, for anybody who's listening who isn't on these streets, that this is your grandma, this is your auntie, this is your abuelito. These are elders. By and large, relatives who are on the street have grave disabilities, and very often are elders. Right?
Yeah.
But we don't get to be elders. We don't get to be cared for. We don't get to be even seen as human. And that's what this whole trajectory of hate has led to. And let's not get it twisted. It is not just coming from the politricksters.
No, it's not.
You feel me? Right? We know that. And that's the way that it's been happening here in Ochun. They don't stop. There's not a breath that we can take. Shout out to Jazz and Stop the Sweeps and
Oh, yes.
right? There's not a breath that we can take that they're not coming for us. They had a example of the hypocrisy yesterday, in front of what I call an elder ghetto. These homes that they put poor elders in. But whatever, in front of an elder ghetto, there was a black, houseless, disabled elder sleeping humbly, and hungry in his RV. Wasn't bothering anybody, kept everything clean, did all the things you're supposed to do. And the anti-social workers from the elder ghetto said, you, by being here, are making our people feel unsafe.
Wow. That's incredible.
Right? And I'm like, well, what about him?
Right.
Is he not get to be safe? And you just towed his home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where's he gonna
Yeah.
go? Right? That ish.
Yeah.
I just wonder if you wanted to comment on that, and we're coming up on time, but other things you might want to let listeners and viewers know about what's going on there. And
I think just, a lot of us gets, kind of sucked into our little bubbles of like, where I live is terrible and all of these things that are here are terrible, but this is happening all over the country, west, east coast, everywhere. I mean, in Oregon, people really, people like to move here from more conservative states and think that it's going to be this like safe haven, and it's, no one ever is mean to a gay person here. But, ultimately these laws that they're, implementing and, breaking their own laws all of the time to oppress people, it's a systematic thing that's happening in every single state in this country. And, grants past really set the seed for it. Medford's been doing it. Ashland's going to do it. And it's just going to keep spreading until, their end goal is to eradicate unhoused people, Black and brown people, poor people in general. Like, that's their goal. And until that happens, it's just going to, it's going to keep happening. They're going to keep putting in these laws, but, we keep fighting back, and there's always more cool poor people than there is cool rich people. So, I think just like putting that out there is like, no one's alone in this struggle. There's always cool people around you that are able to support you. Here in Southern Oregon, Judy's Midnight Diner is here. We have the Rogue Valley Migro Watch. There's also a really, big community of people who just really want, poor people to succeed.
Oh.
And it's like that everywhere. So I just encourage people to get into community and like talk to a poor person and like, you know, have a conversation with someone who you otherwise might not ever do that with.
Oh,
Together we fight.
yeah,
We must unite.
that part. Can you just tell us how people can follow and support you guys' movement up there?
Yeah, so I think with Judy's Midnight Diner, you know, they're on social media, so you can find Judy's Midnight Diner on Instagram at, I think it's just Judy's Midnight Diner. And you know, you can reach out to the team on there if you live locally and you want to volunteer. We, you know, well, we can talk you through it. You can just come to Judy's. It's Friday and Saturday nights. We have our schedule posted on that Instagram. And then Rogue Valley Migro Watch is also on Instagram, just as that. And you can reach out to us as well for like, if you want to volunteer, if you have information, or if you just want to tell a story. That would be my recommendation. Do you have anything else, Derek?
Well, yeah, I think just to say, when y'all come back this way, please stop by. You know, Tiny, you've got my number, so we'd love to have you guys here, and we've got a space we can host you. And I think it is, yeah, really important we keep making these connections, and you know, could talk on and on kind of about the history of Oregon and how this, you know, both there's been the state-backed racialized violence and then the militias too. I mean, you know, here it was both, right? Like that's who there was cavalry-led campaigns against indigenous people, and then there were settler militias against indigenous people. And here on the streets we see the same thing, right? Like Grants Pass has its laws, but it's also got Park Watch, who's open carrying down in Riverside Park to threaten people, you know, and we see that same thing throughout. And it really is the, you know, and I think it's important too to say with Oregon, like it like Sam's saying, it's a continual process that like if you look at, you know, some of the pot farms that were raided this week, they were Chinese farms, right? And Chinese laborers like built the railroads out here. But if you look at the populations, those people were then pushed out of Southern Oregon after the railroad work. And then the population went back down, right? So it's like people have been continually run off out of here. And I think that's still what's going on. And I think we do need to, these fights may seem different in some ways, but these questions, you know, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be with you guys. And we know these things are connected, and how can we articulate that? And how can we, you know, what do we got to do, U.S. out of North America, you know?
Keep holding it down.
That part. Homefulness, Oregon, fam. I mean, we were up there and already had that invitation. We need to get some of the conscious wealth hoarders to radically redistribute so we can build our own solutions. That's what's up. And we'd love to come back. We'll definitely be chopping it up with you. Thank you, family, so much for coming through.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we'll talk soon. You're listening to You're listening and watching Poor People's Radio. That's PNN, not CNN. Poor People's Revolutionary Radio, right here, broadcast live and direct from the small part of unsold, unpimped, unplayed Mama Earth that us houseless people call homefulness.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Go ahead. What's up next?
In addition, we'll be speaking to our warrior family for the Poor People's Army in Philly about their upcoming Poor People's Resistance March. And then finally, we'll be speaking with Warrior Mama and comrade from Free Yalani Love It campaign and more.
All right. Let's bring in Sister Warrior Faye from Poor People's Campaign. How you doing? Welcome to Poor People's Radio.
Hey, thank you for having me.
For sure. Well, here we go. In the moment of this violent attempt to erase us poor people, tell listeners and viewers what our badass comrades from Poor People's Army are planning this Black August.
Yeah, so we have a march on DC on August 23rd, starting at 11 a.m. We are planning to march from the MLK Monument to the Pentagon, and we're just trying to bring some awareness to how much our government's waste is affecting children's lives in the United States as much as children overseas. We want to just, we feel the responsibility to do something to bring some awareness, as well as connect with people and continue our organizing against, empire, building more unity.
Oh, can you tell listeners and viewers a little bit more about, and then a shout out to Sherry and Galen and all the warriors, but a little bit about, what Poor People's Army and Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign has been doing on the ground, because y'all are always on the ground.
So Poor People's Army has been, around for 30 years. Started off as the Kensington Welfare Union. Started off with, just mothers helping each other. And that's developed into a whole movement where we are today, where we focus on projects of survival, which is making sure people have food to eat, or connect them to medical resources or housing issues. Basically people call us for whatever, and we try and connect them to where they need to be to get their needs met. We also are involved in doing political education. We do, right now we're doing, talking a lot about the economic revolution of AI coming in and taking over jobs and leaving so many people without work, and try and keep in touch with everybody that we connect through those. I don't want to say courses, they're more like discussions with everybody who joins us, and kind of reflect on what we're seeing. And something that we see a lot is people are surprised that what we see on the East Coast, we're seeing on the West Coast, we're seeing in the Midwest, we're seeing all kinds of the same things. Attack on poverty, attacks on women, and so forth. And something else we're really working on is traveling and really coming to visit people who are interested in us, building relationships, keeping relationships, and keeping connected with people. Like we really are going to need a network to survive what's coming. And I think it's also really important with this march to really bring the connection to what's happening in the rest of the world, because I think one of the biggest problems with Americans is we don't care about what's happening in the rest of the world. And what's happening in the rest of the world is really a message of what they have in store for us, because what they're willing to do to the working class out there is what they're willing to do to us, to maintain their power, to maintain their dollars, and to maintain their ability to colonize and have their imperialist goals everywhere. All our struggles really are connected, and we really do have the numbers, and we need to learn to connect with each other and to unify, to stay in touch. A lot of us are doing so much work, where we're already at. We're not asking people to stop doing what you're doing. We're just saying, hey, let's connect, let's stay connected, and let's figure out what we're going to do to stop this machine.
That's where the power lies. Absolutely.
Exactly. Poor Magazine has joined you on actually a couple of these marches, and they're really, really, really powerful, really exciting. I'm just curious about the route this year, with the Pentagon. It's an interesting thing, right? Because we know that, part of the Cracker Kings move right now is this whole idea of Washington, D.C. and they're going to own it now or something. Right. And there's this whole weird conflict and talking about pretty openly the incarceration of Black and brown young men and women, and calling them criminal, the criminal element, all this crazy, sick, Crackerlandia Klan conversation. I'm just curious what you guys are thinking in terms of some of that march, and specifically going to places like the Pentagon.
I wish I was there.
So, of course, there's a lot going on. There's obviously an escalation against poverty there with the whole, telling homeless people that they need to get out of the city. Poor People's Army has a lot of elders and people who have been doing this a long time. So there's a lot of, we've been here a while, we're not afraid, and we're going to, continue on our plan. We understand that there are people who are afraid due to the climate, but, I know I've only been with Poor People's Army for a year, but I've been organizing in my community for the past decade. I know their tactics. I've been one of more radical organizers here, so I understand their tactics. I'm not afraid.
That's what's up.
We some of us just have to deal with our comfort zones and find our place and making a difference. Not everybody is going to be able to go into the belly of the beast and fight the fight. We all have got our different places in this.
That's what's up. I'm so excited you're doing that. Can you tell listeners and viewers that want to get involved? It's August 23rd. That's Black August 23rd, launched in what city again?
It's August 23rd at 11 a.m. March on DC. We are marching from the MLK Monument to the Pentagon. We will have stops on the way. We will have speakers. We will have.
How far is that? Like, what's the distance?
It's a 4-mile walk. We will have arrangements for people with disabilities. And we'll have snacks and drinks and so forth to make sure everybody's hydrated and
Okay.
What a powerful route.
Right.
I mean, you're giving me goosebumps. I wish I was there with you.
Right.
Yep.
How can people get involved? What can we follow you?
You can visit us at our website, queerpeoplesarmy.org. The website has all the information about the march as well. You can also follow us on social media. We're at PPEHRC, PPEHRC, Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. I believe we're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram.
Right on. Definitely, listeners, viewers, definitely get involved if you have the resources to go to DC and clap back to the Cracker King. I would definitely say, definitely go. Me and Monty here are like,
Yeah, we're ready.
We're already ready.
We're ready.
We're already ready. Thank you so much, Faye. We really appreciate you. Any last words you want to leave listeners and viewers with?
No, like I said, even if you can't make it to the march, please connect with us. We love to talk to new people. We love to see what's going on in your area. We do have people around nationwide, but we are always looking to connect in different cities. Look forward to connecting with more people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All
It
right.
was nice meeting you.
Yeah. You're listening or viewing Poor People's Radio. That's PNN, not CNN, people. We have still more in store for you. Is Terrence there yet, babe? Is he with us right now? We're going to be hearing from one of our warrior comrades, poverty scholars, an elder, a teacher. For those of you who don't know, we do Poor People's Radio class here for fellow poverty scholars. We also do Poor People's Media and Journalism. Basically, sharing these skills, because we already know as poverty scholars, we already have a voice. We just need the avenue and the access to be heard. One of our elders who was incarcerated for over 37 years and is a really beautiful and badass radio producer, just graduated from Poor People's Radio. And his moniker is Dr. Sweet. But Dr. Sweet has something to say about the sweeps. Take it away, Dr. Sweet.
And this is your host, Dr. Sweet. You're listening to Poor People's Radio, 96.1 FM PNN KEXU, Poor People's Revolutionary Radio.
Do to make sure that there doesn't need to be no more about us without us media because we got our own voices. How about that?
That's right.
That's right. And you're just seeing all of us right now, all formerly houseless folks speaking for ourselves, speaking with each other and bringing in the solutions, right? So I'm blessed to have a warrior, a Haitian son,
All right.
who we met when we were doing another action in a prayer ceremony for Antonio Gonzalez with our beautiful sister Lori Valdez in Muwekma territory, so-called San Jose, but who has been now working with the Jelani Lovett campaign and has, been helping Sister Terry, who's a mama of Jelani Lovett, who was violently unalived by the corrupt and sick armed agents of the state, aka the sheriff's department of so-called LA, Tavangar. Welcome back to Poor People's Radio, Terrence.
Hi, it's nice to be back.
For sure. Listen, tell listeners and viewers what's going on right now with Jelani, and give them a little background, a little more than I said, and where you are at now.
Yeah, well, first I just want to say, yeah, my name is Terrence, and I'm part of the Oakland Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. We are the Oakland branch of the National Alliance. We demand community control of the police, justice for victims of police violence and torture in jails and in the streets. And so we have been working with Mama Terry for uh, I'd say about a year, if not over a year, trying to launch a protracted campaign for justice for Jelani. Jelani was um, held in a LA jail, um, and then died in that jail. And the sheriffs have said that Jelani had died in the jail due to a drug overdose. However, upon further inspection by Mama Terry of what she says is evidence of possible abuse and the execution of Jelani by the sheriff's department, um, and she had tried to push this, uh, this case that Jelani did not just die of a drug overdose, but more than possibly was killed by the county sheriffs who were supposed to watch over him. Uh, and so that case was basically dismissed. And we had been trying to get Rob Bonta's attention, the California Attorney General, to prosecute this case. However, Rob Bonta has yet to prosecute a single case in his time in office against any police officer. Um, and it's becoming incredibly frustrating because it's been several years. Jelani died in 2018. And we have still yet to see like any justice or any look into this new evidence that we think is very compelling. That even if there were some semblance that he was not killed, should still be looked into uh, because it is pretty damning. Terry had talked about it, and there is literally a hole in the back of Jelani's head, which looks like it may have been caused by a bullet wound. And in these county jails, there's not even supposed to be guns. But where Jelani was specifically held as well was particularly protected over a known jail police gang, which have been known to cause terror to different inmates. And so the whole thing is just incredibly disgusting, and we're just still fighting for his justice to this day.
And so right now the push is to get Bonta, who unfortunately is not really, it's like already shown not very responsive to community. That's real. And so what are you guys planning? I know you're planning an action or move right now, huh?
Yeah, on August 19th, in front of Rob Bonta's office in Oakland and LA and San Diego, we're a statewide action. Uh, we will all be coordinated at 11:30 to deliver petitions, to hold rallies, not only in the name of Jelani Lovett, but of the several people who have died by the hands of police, and that Rabanta just has abstained from prosecuting.
Exactly. And I'm just curious because I know that shout out to Mama Terry and all of her, relentless warrior work on demanding justice. But just, for listeners too, this is grief. You lose your baby. And that baby, that beautiful son, was another warrior, another human, and stolen, essentially, for nothing. For folks who don't understand, there's a deep and historical uh, just pattern of not only violent policing, which we know, but also these internal prison guard gangs, which are, of course, they denied. But I know Miss Terry told me the details of these cliques, these gangs that they had created internally, right? But they criminalize our community.
Right.
It's so sick and frightening. It just reminds me of the violence of the Cracker King. It's that same sort of bizarre, wanting to be the violent, the who can be the most violent, who could be the most disgusting. Anything else you'd like to tell us before we check out? How do people support?
Yeah. Well, just for one thing.
Oh, you just cut out for some reason.
Am I still cut out?
Hold up. Not sure why, but we couldn't hear you there. Try it again.
Yeah, I was just talking about how people can find us. You can find us at okay.
Oh, that's crazy. The COINTELHOs are trying to mess with you. Because every time you tell us how we can follow you, one more time.
Yeah, OAARPR on Instagram, the Oakland Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. You can also go to at Justice for Jelani. Again, yeah, we're holding the rally in downtown Oakland, August 19th, 11.
That's what's up. So again, Black August 19th in downtown Ochune, that's Oakland, at Rob Bonta's office. What time on August 19th?
11:30.
11:30. That's where you got to be, family. Support Mama Terry because she's not giving up. They're not going to steal her baby.
Right.
Oh no.
Stolen too many already.
That part. Thank you so much, Terrence. We appreciate you. And of course, you and Terry are welcome anytime, Poor People's Radio. All power to the people for sure.
All power to the people. Thank you.
For sure. Again, you're listening and watching Poor People's Radio. That's PNN, not CNN. I'm here with the amazing Monty from Wood Street Commons and my other brother, Poverty Scholar, Monty Aldo Silencio. I just want to call out that youth scholar Tibu, aka my son, is on the ones and twos, holding it down.
We got him back
with the engineering. That's no joke.
He's back.
Yeah, that tech stuff is intense.
Tibu back.
Right, Tibu back. But I wanted to say that before we close out, if you could bring up that poster, Tibu. So, the on not that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
I emailed it to you.
No, I have it. I don't know why it's not coming up.
Although we love to see Dr. Sweet. Okay, there you go. So on Black August 28th, which first of all, you all know what you got to do on the 19th. So please show up for Mama Terry and Jelani and all the relatives at Rob Bonta's office at 11:30 on Black August 19th. But on Black August 28th at 61st and Adeline, a really important movie, I should say. Us poor and houseless people are honoring our relatives, our fellow ancestors of homelessness. We created a narrative movie around and about the violence of sweeping our bodies like we're trash, and the violence that leads to our death. And shouting out to Luis Tomaj, burned alive for sleeping outside. Luis Dimitro Gongora Pat, killed for being Mayan and indigenous in the occupied streets of Yalamu, aka Frisco. Stephen Taylor, killed in Walmart for being Black and having a mental health crisis. Tyrell Wilson, Lori McElroy, my Mama D. There's so many, unfortunately. Buddha and JT, James Edward Oakley, Green Eyes, Mike Flo. I wish I was done, but the list is endless because our bodies are not considered human. So this is a powerful movie. We don't get no Hollywood love. We really do need folks to just show up and support us. The last one we did was at the site of one of the worst sweeps in Oakland, the East 12th Street site that you heard Dr. Sweet speak upon, where we lost Brother JT, a black elder who had everything taken from him. Everything. And he already had nothing, right? How do you take everything from someone who has nothing? Anyway, so on 61st and Adeline, which is the site of some of the worst gentrification, and I think most of you know what I call it, of basically Black Oakland, so that you have elders who had their homes there for generations, losing them overnight, becoming white, as Malcolm said, white laws and white lawyers. But Sister Warrior, Auntie Frances Moore, created a resistance to that at the Self-Help Hunger Program, who we love so much and we work with. And Auntie Frances is part of our poor family as well, and co-founder of Homefulness. And so on Black August 28th at 8 p.m. on the street at 61st and Adeline, we will be showing the trailer of this beautiful movie. We'll be talking about what it means to make art about our lives, and also what it means that our lives continue to be predated on.
It's great. Please show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please show up to support this movie.
Oh, Mateo. Thank you so much, family, and please come. And
so that's all for the broadcast of Poor People's Radio. You can follow us on Facebook, X, or Instagram at Poor Magazine, at Poverty Scholar, and Poor News Network on YouTube. You can also get this complete Poor People's Radio podcast with all the interviews and conversations, or any of our previous archive shows on Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. All power to the people.
All power to the people.